Many of you guys know that I'm a huge fan of doing self-checks. All right, what I mean is I very often, I will look at myself in the mirror and say, hey, am I on course? You know, when it comes to the Word of God, am I on course? When I look at my reactions, when I look at my priorities, are they straight? Okay, are my behaviors, is my language, my decisions, my choices, my commitments? I'm constantly doing these self-checks to make sure I'm on par with where I'm supposed to be, okay? I want to make sure that, man, my language isn't slipping. I'm starting to use words that I didn't used to use. I want to make sure that I'm not treating Ashley any different than I used to do. I want to make sure I'm treating my wife well, treating my friends well, keeping up with my family, different things like that. I'm a huge fan of self-checks, and I found it to be extremely healthy in my life. And so I kind of just want to walk us together into a self-check. And out of the many, many things that we could do it on, I'm going to keep it super basic because I want you guys to go home and be like, man, I know exactly what Pastor Brayden was talking about. This is what I'm taking home. If parents ask, hey, this is what it is, it's going to be super simple. We're just talking about priorities. All right, we're going to do a self-check when it comes to our priorities. I wrote this quote down. It says, action expresses priorities. All right, we all know that actions speak louder than words, right? Somebody says they love you and they turn around, they stab you in the back. You kind of feel like, your actions speak a little bit louder than the words, right? We all agree with that one? I can tell your priorities based on your actions. Okay, another quote is this. If it's important to you, you'll find a way. If it isn't, you'll find an excuse. If it's important to you, you will find a way. Now, we have tons, and I mean tons and tons of things that we have to give some measure of priority to in our lives, all right? For example, things like school, eating, relaxing, and sports, okay? They're very demanding. They require some measure of priority in our lives, all right? And some of you found out this past week that you should have given a little bit more priority to your homework because y'all had testing this week and you found out, oops, grades weren't where I needed them, knowledge was not where I needed them, and it's crunch time. Should have given priority. Some of y'all need to give some priority to your hygiene. Got that stank breath, and we all smell it. Need to brush them teeth, all right? We all have things that require some level of priority and attention from us. But we only have so much time in the day, right? And that means that some things are going to get more attention than others. So I kind of just want to take a look at some things I have in my life and see if you guys can help me prioritize them, all right? Don't put this on the screen just yet. I'm going to read them off, though. Some priorities in my life is going to be my wife. She's also my family, so you guys can relate, family. Church, youth, work, social media, movies or relaxation, time with God, sleep, reading, studying a new skill, housework. Did not know how much housework was required when I got out of an apartment and got a house. Exercise, eating, okay? This is priorities in my life. All right? Now, you can throw that on the screen of that list of them, if you would. Did y'all get that? Sweet. All right, so that's just what I read off. There might be a few more that's missing. But out of those, guys, go back to the first one. It's fine. Out of those, which one would you say is the absolute, like, if I only got to do one in the day, like when it comes to Thursday, tomorrow, I only get to accomplish one of those, which ones would you guys say is the most important? I hear youth, I hear family, I hear sleep. All right, you guys are pretty much all over the board. That's okay. I did hear what I would call the correct answer, and that is time with God. So if you said time with God, I believe it was you, Juliet. Well done. Time with God. All right? And the funny thing about this is, is that Matthew? Can you turn me down just a hair? I'm on pastor's mic. The thing about spending time with God is that has been the answer to that question my entire life. Doesn't matter what I encounter, doesn't matter the situations, who's in my life, anything. Spending time with God is always going to be the number one priority in our lives. It's what we were created for, is to have time with God, okay? It's always been the answer. But you want to know something? I've had many, many, many days over my years where that was not the case, where I didn't have him as being my top priority, all right? Many other things that I allowed to have that place in my life. There was days where I wouldn't even talk to God. I maybe said, Lord, bless this food in Jesus' name, amen. And that was the extent of spending time with God. And yet I managed to do all those other things in the day, except the very most important. Why is that? My prioritizing was wrong. I was giving other things the priority that I was supposed to be giving God. And this was really my excuse for almost all the time. I still make this excuse sometimes. It's really sad. I'll be like, you know what? I need to spend time with God today. All right? And I'll be like, oh, but I have to do this, and I have to do this, and I have to go here, and I got to get groceries, and I got to clean the car. And I'll have this list in my head, and I'm like, well, I'm going to knock out some of those because they're really easy. And then I'll spend time with God, because then my head will be clear. Like, I'm not going to be distracted when I'm spending time with God, because my head will be clear. I've already taken care of those other priorities. And what happens is I do those, and then I kind of get tired, and I'm like, oh, you know what? I deserve some relaxation. So I'll jump on social media, scroll for like 30 minutes, which turns into 3 hours. And because I didn't put God as my priority, now I'm not even spending time with him. That's an issue. Some of you guys might know, do y'all remember I told you that I was homeschooled? Okay? I only went to public school my junior and senior year. Went to a large public school junior, senior year. But other than that, I was always homeschooled. Okay? And when you're homeschooled, I had 6, 7 subjects every single day. All right? And my mom was kind of like, hey, here's your schedule. This is what you have to do each day, each subject. You do whatever subject you want first and get the day done. I'm like, cool, got it. So there were some subjects like vocab, take 5, 10 minutes, and I'm done for the day with that subject, okay? There's other subjects like science, take 35, 40 minutes, okay? And then there was the big one, there was the math. And math took me like an hour, hour and a half. It wasn't all that big, but it was the biggest one of the group, and so I would constantly push math off to the side. I'd be like, you know what, it's going to have a hard time focusing on math because I have 6 other subjects I've got to tackle. So I'll just tackle the easy ones. That way when I'm doing math, I know I don't have that much left after I'm done with it. And that was a terrible way to think. Because by the time I'd get some of the other ones done, well, now I don't feel like doing math. So I'd go hang out in my room and just procrastinate for a while. And then I'd make a really long lunch, and I would avoid that math project. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, all right, I should probably start knocking it out. But my friends would be coming home from school. They'd be getting off the bus, and I'm like, ooh, I'd like to go shoot some hoops. That sounds like a really fun time. Go inside and work on math for an hour and a half, or go play with my friends outside because they're back from school. And so I would push it off. I wouldn't tell my mom, push it off. Next day, I'll do 2 maths. Vocab takes 5 minutes. I'll be able to make it up. And Tuesday comes, and because I didn't prioritize math, it would go to 2. I would have 2 that day, and then the next day I would have 3, and I would continuously forget about it. And then it would come to Friday, and I have 5 maths to do. And I'll be honest with you guys, when it came to sophomore year, junior year, I didn't do any math. I just kept pushing it off and off. I never told my mom, and she would check in like, hey, do you got this done or whatever? And I wouldn't lie, but I'd be like, I would just push it off to the time where, well, I got a basketball game on Saturday, so as long as I get to do that, I'm good. And I would just push it off and off. And I ended up going to public school, like I said, my junior year. And I struggled like crazy in that class because I didn't do math sophomore year. I never prioritized it. So I was lost. I was behind in the class, constantly needing help. What's your point, Brayden? Where are you going to with all this? My point is that math was the important one. And I thought I could skip it here and there, and I thought I could put the other things before it and get those done and still do it. But when I didn't prioritize math as the number one, as the top, as the first thing, it never got done. And I'm just noticing so often in our lives that if we don't have God as our top priority, we do not spend time with him. We say, oh, you know what, I'll do that later at 7 o'clock. Well, at 7 o'clock, your show comes on. At 7 o'clock, your friends want to FaceTime it, whatever the case may be. And then you're like, oh, that's okay. It's only Tuesday. I can spend time with him on Wednesday. And you keep pushing him back while the other stuff gets taken care of. And you give it better priority than you give God. Guys, God's not okay with being 3rd, 2nd, 5th, 8th, whatever on your priority list. He's supposed to be the top. Top priority. Ashley, will you get that row? They need to stop. All y'all need to stop talking. Y'all need to be looking at each other. There's no reason for that. Does anybody else relate with that? You just push something off and it's like suddenly it's Friday and you're like, oops, I haven't spent time with God all week. I'm the only one? Yeah, there's some of it. Yes, that's what I'm saying. But the only reason that happens is because we're not prioritizing God. It's really simple, and it's a really simple fix. That's why I love self-checks. They're always a simple fix. Just recognizing, you know what, God has not been the priority. What about you guys? Let's talk about some things that you guys have in your lives that you have to give priority. And realize, like, now is a great time for you guys to think about this and think about when you give God time, because you've got 2 weeks left, and then y'all got about 7 extra hours a day to fill with priorities. 7 hours, suddenly you don't have school, and you can fill it with something else. And that, honestly, if you're not making God a priority right now, when you don't have much time, it's not going to be any different when you suddenly have 7 more hours. It just doesn't happen like that, okay? So we want to look at this. Let's make a quick list of some of the things that you guys have going on in your day. Tell me something that's a priority for you guys. Food. Sleep. What? Pets? Yeah, for sure. TikTok, family and friends. What? Reach. Yes. Y'all better keep Reach a priority. What else? You got to do it every day. What is it? Shower. Yes, Jesus. Please shower. If you're in middle school or high school, you need to be showering every day. Mercy. Read the Bible. Cool. Brush your teeth. Yes, please. All right. That's enough. I got plenty of them. Thank you. Now, I just named off a list of them. Which one's your top priority? Whatever one honestly, it might be when I was talking to you earlier, you might say, oh, if you yelled out sleep might be your top priority. If you yelled out work, it might be your top priority. I wrote down some things that would be for you guys. Sports, friends, social media, gaming. Don't act like some of y'all aren't on the game all the time. Time with God, time with family, work, sleep, play. These are all things that you guys are going to have begging for your time. All things that you have begging for your time right now. It's a lot. I absolutely agree with that. But we have to not only recognize the most important, we also have to adjust things to make things the most important. Whatever that's going to be for you. I want to read real quick a story in Luke chapter 10. You guys might recognize the story, but it says, as Jesus and his disciples continued on their journey, they came to a village where a woman welcomed Jesus into her home. Her name was Martha. She had a sister named Mary, and Mary sat down attentively before the master, absorbing every revelation he shared. But Martha became exasperated with finishing the numerous household chores and preparations for her guests. So she interrupted Jesus and said, Lord, don't you think it's unfair that my sister let me do all the work by myself? You should tell her to get up and help me. I want you guys to look at God's response here. Jesus said, Martha, my beloved Martha, why are you upset and troubled, pulled away by all these many distractions? Mary has discovered the one thing. Remember, I said one thing needs to be above all else. Most important, by choosing to sit at my feet. She's undistracted, and I won't take this privilege from her. You guys got to notice there was an opportunity to prioritize for both these women. They both had the same opportunity. Prioritize the tasks they have to do, scrubbing the floors, picking up the trash, whatever it may be, making the house look better, or spending time with Jesus. One of them chose right, one of them chose wrong, and Jesus makes it very clear which it was. He says, the most important was sitting at my feet. In other words, the most important is spending time with me. You're going to have plenty of other distractions like Martha had. Most important is spending time with me. Matthew 6:33, it says, but seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. Seek when? First. Seek first. Not at the end of the day. Doesn't happen. Some of you might be night readers. If you're really disciplined, yes, it can happen. But I'm telling you, if you find yourself not doing it, it's because you keep trying to do it at night. Doesn't happen. Seek God first. Not last, not in the middle. In other words, make him a priority. And the end of the verse is really cool. It says, and all these things will be added to you. In other words, everything else will fall into place. There will be time for the other tasks if you put God first. God knows your priorities. He's going to make time for them. Put him first. If you're taking notes, write this down. We don't grow in him if he isn't in a position of priority. You will not. You will not grow deeper in your relationship with God if he's not in a position of priority. He's got to be at the top of the list. That list they put up there, man, spend time with Jesus, it was in the middle. Man, I need to make adjustments if that's me and put that to the top. I have to make sure that is my top priority. Let's do a how-to really quick. How do we get him into a place of priority? My first suggestion is this: make him first. If you guys wake up, some of this is y'all to a T. Some of you wake up 5 minutes before school, throw on some pants, throw on a shirt, and you're out the door running to school, okay? How do you put him first? Man, wake up 15 minutes early instead of 5 minutes and spend 10 minutes with Jesus. You just put him first. Real simple way. Whoa, that was not the thunder. Am I still on? Okay, cool. Guys, if you want to go hang out with friends on Saturday, don't go until you spend time with Jesus. That's how you put him first. Hey, we want to hang out at 9 a.m. Saturday morning. Can you come over? I can come over at 10. Because at 9, I'm going to put God first. Priorities. Or else wake up an hour earlier. Go at 8 so you can make it at 9. But put God first. Worship team, y'all can join me back on stage if you would. The second thing that we need to do is ask ourselves, what is taking so much of our available time? With the things that you guys have to do in an average day, what is taking up all of your available time? I named some things that you cannot excuse. You got to sleep. You got to eat. You got to go to school, right? Eat, poop, sleep, school. These are all have-tos, right? Can't get around them. But things like social media, gaming, friends, these are things that you can shave some time off of. These are things that you can make minor adjustments to have huge ground when it comes to your relationship with God. You can shave off how much time you spend with them, with your friends. You can shave off how many hours you spend on social media, TikTok, things like that.
You have to move something around to make time for God if he's a priority. In order to say yes to your priorities, you have to be willing to say no to something else. That's truth. What on your list? You guys shouted out a lot of things. What on your list are you willing to say no to? Because you recognize God's not in that priority. He's not number one. Hudson says social media. I believe that's 100% true. And if Hudson wants to be honest and say, you know what, that's something I could give up to spend more time with God, he's got to do it now. And if Hudson doesn't put social media to the side to spend more time with God, that tells me and everybody else in this room he's not a priority. And I'm not picking on Hudson. That goes for every single one of you. If there's something that you can say, you know what, I can give up some time doing that, but you don't do it, you're telling me very clearly he's just not that priority. I'm going to keep God at the bottom of the list. It's just that simple. Like, I don't want it to sound so deep. Like, this is the simplest thing. Man, make God a priority, and you grow deeper in him. Make God a priority, and suddenly you know how to recognize his voice. Make him a priority, and suddenly you notice your prayers are being answered. Make him a priority, and suddenly when you're in your quiet place, you feel the presence of God. Because you've made him a priority, because you followed the word, you've made him first. Rather than making all these other things more valuable to you than him. Let's get our priorities in line, God. Keeping Jesus first is absolutely key to growing in a real, tangible relationship with God. Please don't think I'm just talking to you. I'm 100% talking to myself. I do self-checks for a reason, because I miss it. Me and Hudson got something in common. Social media's got to get put to the side a little bit more. I got to shave some time off of it to spend more time with God, because it's gotten bigger than I intended it to. I deleted Facebook off my phone so I'd be on it less. Well, that only meant that I'm on Instagram even more. It's kind of counterproductive. I need to shave some things off. And y'all are more than welcome to hold me accountable. Say, Brayden, next week, did you cut back on social media? And I better have if God's a priority in my life. I'm doing this with you guys. Let's all think. I want you all to think of something that you need to shave back to give God that top priority. Let's have everybody stand up with me. We're going to go back into worship. We don't go super long. We'll do one song. But we're going to have a few of your leaders come down front right now. And during this song, I want you all to worship if you're standing in your chairs. If you have a prayer request, though, I want you to come forward. If you want to make Jesus the Lord of your life, I want you to come forward. If you have a relative, a friend that needs prayer for anything, I want you to come forward. I want you to get with one of the leaders, and I want you to pray with them because they want to stand in agreement with you. And if you're not coming forward for prayer, I want you to stand in your seat. I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to ask God, what is it that I need to give up so that I can go deeper with you? What is it that I've given priority over you? Let him tell you. Let him show you. And then I want you to commit to God. Say, all right, we're going to give it a week. I will do it. I will shave time off of that, and I will spend it with you. Commit. Just saying, yeah, I should do it, it's not going to cut anything. Commit. And I'll commit too.